Hey, Kellen, how you doing? Thank you.
Good to see you, Andy. Good to see you as always, brother.
Thank you for taking the time out of your day to be able to speak with me on this last week of the regular season. We are about to reach senior night for you guys. You're going to be honoring three seniors in Reggie Chaney, Darius Bowser, and Marcus Sasser. Start with Marcus because I remember I've heard Coach say this a few times over the course of the last few seasons when it came to Marcus Sasser's really first summer with you guys' program. It was a bit brutal during stretches. What do you remember about the first time Sasser was really here within your guys' camp?
I think he had such an eagerness to get going, get started. I remember when he first dropped his bags off the campus, first thing he wanted to do was drop his stuff off, and he wanted to come shoot. And I let him in, and I saw him, and I went, "Whoa, you put on a couple pounds, brother." But he had such an eagerness to work and get started. And one thing about Marcus, he loves basketball, loves it. He's got a passion for it, has a burning desire for it. He did not like conditioning. He did not love conditioning. And that first summer, just getting acclimated, But to his credit, he made the point, "I'm never going to be out of shape again." And 4 years later, he was never out of shape. Even when he had the foot injury last year, he was, as soon as he could get cleared to do something, he was doing it. Whether it was in the weight room, non-contact stuff, he was bound and determined to never be out of shape again. But that first summer, we went on our foreign trip to Italy. And so it was the first chance we got a chance to kind of put our hands on him early, that whole group. And we did an open public scrimmage here. And he was on the other team. And my point guard was Dejan Giroux. Quantas had Marcus. And Marcus was the X factor, even as a true freshman, first summer, and that he'd hounded Dejan 94 feet and changed the game for his team. And that might be the first time he might be a little pudgy, but he's got an it factor, and he's going to be a difference maker sooner rather than later.
Yeah, so talk about that freshman season because, it's not surprising to see how it played out because he carved himself a good rotational spot as a freshman. And, it's just a testament, like you said. He kind of really responded to that first summer. And, like you said, he vowed that he was never going to be out of shape again.
So this is so cool about Mark's first year. We lose to BYU at home pretty early. And he came off the bench. The next game, we're Rice, and he starts. And we win. The next Oregon, we don't win. And he gets a crash course in point guard one-on-one from Peyton Pritchard. And fast forward he plays pretty good at home against Oklahoma State. We lose. A week later, we are playing Georgia Tech in the semifinals of. He doesn't get in the game. He didn't complain, didn't moan, didn't groan. There was not a peep from him. 2 nights later, we beat Washington, and he probably plays 15 minutes. A week later, we lose at Tulsa, and he plays really well. He starts every game the rest of his freshman year. But how he handled that Georgia Tech moment with the maturity and the determination, and he kept a quiet confidence about him, told us everything about Marcus, that he was somebody you could build with, and that when things didn't go right necessarily for him, even though he'd had some success earlier in his freshman year, it didn't go well for him in that snapshot of a moment. He didn't complain. He didn't give up hope. He didn't tuck his tail and run. There wasn't a barrage of phone calls talking about look, he just put his head down and was determined to make it work, and fast forward 2 weeks later, he started every game. And you win championships when you got people of that character.
I don't think you can go and say how rare that type of, like you said, it factor really is in a player.
And when they possess it and they have it, it's obvious. And I think it's what's made this program really great is when you prove it, we don't deny you. This is very much a you earn what you get, or you get what you earn sort of place. And I think that's what has motored us as far along as we have is if you prove it and you earn it and you're about it every single day, we will not deny it to you. And Marcus kicked the door down as a true freshman and was he's been a 4-year starter.
I think it's kind of interesting when you think about it. Kind of fast forward to next year, like you said, he earned a starting rotation his freshman year. Obviously, that year got cut short because of COVID. And then the next year, I mean, he's starting on a team that goes to the Final Four, and he played really well in that Final Four.
Yeah, no, and he'd had a monster start to the year. People forget he sprained his ankle, didn't play against South Carolina at home, and he had a really bad ankle, and it took him a little while to kind of find his footing, because he started conference play, and then he had kind of hit the skids a little bit with his shot, and teams were playing him different. But again, I think in the theme of Marcus, he goes back to selflessness. He was our starting point guard. But in order for our team to elevate, to get to the best it could be, is we had to move Dejan to the point and move Marcus a little bit more off the ball. And that he struggled with a little bit with that, finding his groove, finding his way. But our team excelled. Our team took off. Not a peep, not a moan, not a groan. It's look, he understood this is what's best for the team. I need to find my way again. And he did it unbelievably selflessness. And if I had, what's the one common trait that all successful Cougars have had here for us is they've all been selfless. Because you can't be selfish and make it here. And Marcus is a huge byproduct of that. Is every step along the way, he's accepted a little bit less at times in order for the team to thrive. And maybe that might be the most endearing memory I'll have of him is how he always was okay. He didn't take the max contract. He took the Tom Brady deal so that we all could thrive. And it's going to work out big for that kid moving forward.
To kind of piggyback on what you just said, obviously, just hearing you talk, it seems like he's had to go through a lot of ups and downs with adversity, which, I mean, that's just life in general. But obviously last year he suffered the injury that kept him out for half of it. That's another thing he had to overcome. And then, like you said, it's kind of interesting that you put it that way, but he could have gone pro after last season. He chose to come back, and really, I mean, he's a key figure, obviously, on this team, but it's something that he didn't necessarily have to do, and he chose to.
Yeah, no, I mean, Marcus had the opportunity of a lifetime sitting in front of him, and easily could have bet on himself in that moment and say, look, I'm going to find a way to make it. And if he had chosen to gone that route, nobody would have blamed him in the slightest. But he also recognized the window and the opportunity that we had with this team and what it could mean for himself moving forward, but also what he would have a chance to do with this collection of guys that he loves so much, like a brotherhood, and like he loves so much. And I think that it's working out in the best of ways for him, and I think that it'll work out for him in the best of ways come June too. Knock on wood, we have an awesome April moment with him, and then he's going to have a terrific June moment when it's time for him at the end of that rainbow as well.
Absolutely. Now, kind of segueing to the other seniors, I want to start with Reggie Chaney, who similar during, it was before the Final Four year when he came over the team, and obviously he was talking about it earlier today about how really he heard about how much Coach Sampson, the intensity that he brings to the table. When he actually got to experience it, he was like, it's worse than what they told me. That seems like to be a common thread a lot of players say when they first go through a practice with Coach Sampson. But what have you seen from Reggie Chaney from when he first joined the program to now and that similar growth?
So we signed Reggie. We lose Fabian White. He tears his ACL. Reggie is leaving Arkansas. We're able to recruit him and convince him that, hey, look, you've got a chance to replace Fabian White. But when we get him, his skill set's just different. But that doesn't mean he's not a really good player. And he comes in and he's got to find his way in the front court spot. Picks up our defensive system maybe as fast as any post player we've ever had here. Typically for a post player, it takes a year. Where you really can feel like you know the defensive system. Reggie knew it back into at the end of his first semester. He knew the system, and there's a reason he was the starter on the Final Four team at the end of the year, because he knew our defensive system, and defensively, our numbers were through the roof when he was on the floor. And he's always been a little bit better offensive player than people have given him credit for, because he always finds ways to score baskets or make an impact. He's such an unselfish passer. Reggie might be the best screener we've had here in 3 years, in that he just knows the right angles. And I think maybe the coolest thing about Reggie is our guards, to a man, all want to play with Reggie. They all believe when Reggie says a coverage call, they all believe it's right. They all are committed and know that Reggie will make it right. That's an awesome compliment that you can have as a player, is that other good players want to play with you, and that's a hell of a legacy that player that we've had here wants to play with Reggie.
On the topic of legacy and Reggie Chaney, when you hear his name, I mean, just seeing him play, he just seems like a culture player that fits right in with what the program's identity is. I remember Coach Sampson always talks about how whenever he first saw the bubble drill that the infamous bubble drill that you guys do, well, that's right up Reggie Chaney's alley. That's something that, I mean, he fits right in, and being able to kind of bully people around.
No, look, there are some guys that try to run around contact. Reggie likes it and gets his juices and his rhythm and his flow for the game. For Reggie's built on contact. Well, he's such a great screener. Reggie likes screening. He likes the contact. He likes the bump and the grind and the fight and the strain of that part of the game. And Reggie was put on this earth to play for Houston. He was put on this earth to play for us. He is our identity. When you think of a Houston Cougar, you think of a guy like Reggie, muscled up, motored up, flying around, diving on the floor, fighting for every extra possession, plays with an edge, plays with a little nastiness to him. We are as close to our identity when Reggie's on the floor as we've ever been, and that's a huge compliment and credit to him. He didn't start his career here, but I am for certain glad he ended his career here.
Kind of wrapping up with the 3 seniors that will be honored tomorrow. Thursday. Darius Bowser, who joined before the season started, and coaches talked about how he was honest with him. He didn't promise him, he was going to have a specific set rotation spot. Really, what you guys needed him is to come in here and be a practice player. And like you said, especially in the front court, with players like Reggie Chaney, they're going to be physical. I mean, he's going to get beat up every time you guys go out there and have practice, and for him to be able to hear that, accept that, and come in here, and Coach Sampson said earlier today, he was exactly what this program needed, especially for the summer and fall practices heading into this season.
Yeah, look, in a lot of ways, he was a godsend. You can't practice as physical and as hard as we do and not have a little attrition. Not have a guy that's banged up, or maybe a guy needs a day, and to have somebody of Darius's quality that had been a starter, has played in a multitude of college basketball games. He's 23, he has the maturity, and I'll say this about Darius Bowser: there's a lot of we have guys that need a lot of reps in order to memorize a play. Bowser can watch later be able to execute it. Unbelievable basketball feel and recall to be able to not have drilled out and seamlessly step into practice and run it at the drop of a hat. You know how awesome that is? You've got a 5 in practice every that can catch and can run offense. Whatever the other team does defensively, Bowser on recall can simulate it and do it with the humble spirit to push the other guys. And after he's done, tell them what he did. That's how you win a championship. That Bowser he's made us better. The maturity that he has helped further some things along. Our guys kind of treat him as an uncle a little bit, and that they kind of act. They know they can't be silly or playful or childlike around Darius. Yeah, he's gonna call him out on it. Not saying that he's not a great guy to be around, but there's a professionalism to Darius that this program really needed, and without a doubt, he's no maintenance, not low maintenance, but no maintenance. He's about his business every single day, and he's allowed us to keep our wheel moving. He's been an unbelievable spoke in the wheel, and I think that if you've got one spoke that's broke, you got a problem. Bowser has been a terrific spoke in our wheel, and really excited that he spent his last year with us. I'm excited to see what he does moving forward.
Kind of the final question, kind of to tie it all together when it comes to this senior night. And obviously, you've been through. Can you ever really prepare once they're on the court, they're getting recognized? I imagine that all these memories start flooding in your head about, and just every single one, because they're all going to have their own spotlight, right, about certain memories that stood out to you with each particular player. For this group of seniors, when that day comes against Wichita State, before Wichita State, what's kind of the one thing, and if you could summarize this whole senior class that you're going to remember for years down the road?
Yeah, they were all selfless in their own way. At every turn, they had a chance to be selfish and chose to be selfless. Bowser could have been selfish and sought a spot where he was going to be a starter, and he could have found it, or certainly been a rotational guy, and he could have found it. But he chose to come here and serve in his role, and the biggest compliment I can give is he was all conference in his role. Reggie could have spent his last year of eligibility and said, look, I want to go somewhere where I know I'm going to be a starter. I know that I'm going to be a featured player on offense, and I'm going to have an opportunity to score double-figure points and get double-figure rebounds. But he wanted to be a Cougar and wanted to be a Cougar for life. And he's been all conference in his role this year. And the selflessness that he's had at times to allow us to bring Javier along. And I can't tell you how many times we've had where Reggie said, "Now let Jay needs some minutes. Jay needs to go. Like we need to push Jay along." And chose to sit out a lot of games that could have been numbers for him, but he knew that, and he's so committed to us that look, for us to be what we want to be, and for Jay to be what Jay needs to be, leave Jay out there. I'm good. That's incredible. Marcus is averaging less points this year than maybe any other superstar in college basketball. But he's also on the best team in college basketball. And his ability to let us coach him, and let us coach him hard, and his ability to sacrifice and take a little bit less of the pie than he probably could get, has allowed Jairus to thrive. It's allowed Jamal to thrive. It's allowed J1 to thrive. It's allowed Tremont Mark to thrive. All those guys could have chosen to be selfish, and they've chosen to be selfless, and maybe as selfless of a group that we've had, and that's incredible.
Houston Cougars assistant coach Kellen Sampson, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.